Retro video gaming. It's a genre, a topic that's been widely discussed and beat to death by people and reviewers and publishers and developers and influencers. God, that word. People who are just way better at explaining shit than me. I don't know if you noticed, but I kind of rant. Kind of. And by kind of, I mean like all the fucking time. It's for like when someone who's into retro video games, it's like they automatically age themselves, right? Like if someone says, "Oh yeah, I love retro video gaming," I already know there's someone my age who's, in their 30s or late 30s, as in my case. I'm not saying it's not possible, but it's kind of rare for you to meet someone who's a little younger who's into retro games. It's refreshing actually when I see that. And I mean, I guess you can sort of kind of count 2D games, but not really. Like I think of games like Hollow Knight or like what's that other game called? Is it Oni and the Will of the Wisps? I probably just mixed like three titles together. But I never played that one. I did play Hollow Knight and absolutely loved it. But the Will of the Wisps one, I think it's called Oni. That looks fire too, but I haven't got a chance to play that. I'm happy that there's still a place for them. Games like Blasphemous, or is it Blasphemous or Blasphemy? Excuse me, I think it's Blasphemous. That's another one that's like you know, kind of it's retro, but it's also modernized at the same time, and that's what I like about it the most. Or about any game like that. Then you can go back and play indie games that are they came out recently, but they came out in a retro style, like God damn it. What's that other game? Two of them came out recently. Give me a couple of seconds. Fuck. I can't remember it. Um anyways, they come out in like pixelated styles. They look, sometimes 8-bit, sometimes 16-bit, and they got the Metrovania thing going on, but the controls are modernized, they're super slick, and the UI is modernized, the music is modernized. You've got, you know, high def music pumping out of an 8-bit game. It's kind of surreal, but it's really cool at the same time. Axiom Verge, that's the game. Uh, one and two came out. I haven't played two, but I played one. Games like that, that are modernized but pixelized at the same time. I'm glad there's still a place for them, and I know I'm not speaking for no one here because I don't think retro video games take a large slice of the pie that is high selling video games, because ultimately you have passion projects and you have games that developers want to make, but a lot of developers have bosses, a lot of publishers have bosses, and their bosses want to make money, so they have to kind of roll with the tide, roll with the punches, and make games that people want to play. That's why you see, at least here in America, I know the markets are different everywhere around the world, but here in America it seems like first person shooters and these arena based type games, they lock you in this little Fortnites and the Apex Legends and the Valiant. I think that's the name of it. These are the games, Call of Duties. These are the games that are like in CS:GO. They're like dominating the landscape, at least here in America. I can't speak for other markets, but and those games are fun. I don't really have my major problem with them, except for me. My biggest problem would be that I like games with like storylines, and I like games that you can get lost in, like RPGs and stuff. Like that gameplay loop of dropping in and killing people, then getting killed, and dropping in, getting people. Like that gets old for me, like incredibly fast. So I know that retro video games don't have the biggest share in the market or whatever, but it's still cool to see them being created and being shown love. And I don't have a problem playing a game that's as massive as you know Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And when I'm not talking about quality, I'm talking about scope. Or like games like even Assassin's Creed Odyssey before that, or The Witcher or Skyrim. Like, imagine a pixelated game that massive, right? With that many side quests and stuff like that. Like, I would be 100% on board if it's done well. You know what I mean? Like imagine like a pixelated, and it doesn't even have to be like 8-bit pixelated. We can hit the 16, or even 32, just kind of like simplified graphics where, it's still good looking, but in a charming retro type way. Like I'm okay with playing a pixelated retro inspired game that's as big as Skyrim or The Witcher. Like with side quests included, with cool music, with lore, with like I would absolutely love that. I don't know if it's because I'm a firm believer that graphics don't make a video game. And we all have examples of video games that are graphically stunning, but they're lacking in content. They're devoid of fun, you know, and there's unfortunately there's quite a few. There's even particular video game companies that specialize in these type of games that are beautiful to look at, but just feel pretty empty. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with retro still being a thing that I'm not gonna say it clings on, although I'm trying to avoid that word because it kind of feels like that. And what I feel is not necessarily the truth. This is something I'm trying to teach myself in and out of making these videos. Like that, this is a good lesson to learn and apply in your real life situations. It's just to not always believe what you feel, because that's a big problem I always have. Like sometimes I'll feel something and in my mind and my body and everything is telling me this is the way it is, but in reality it's nothing like that. And then I go, oh shit, I'm glad I didn't overreact, because if I did I would have looked like an asshole. Whatever. But I feel like retro video games are kind of clinging on still, not thriving, but clinging on. Maybe I'm wrong. I know nostalgia is a huge market, man. Nostalgia is making crazy amounts of noise and revenue. You don't believe me? Look at the Resident Evils. How many fucking Resident Evils did they remake? And I'm here for all of them. I told myself I wasn't gonna say that phrase because it was getting annoying. Like, when people go, and I'm here for it. These sneakers are great, and I'm here for it. It's bad when like corporate people are taking that slang or that phrase and using it for their products, and I'm just like, oh my god. But I just said it. But whatever. Nostalgia is a hell of a. It's a strong, potent drug that sells well. And just recently, yesterday, I found out they're remaking Snake Eater, Metal Gear 3, and I'm like, fuck yeah. You know what I mean? Like I've played Snake Eater already many times and loved it, and it's like now I get to play it with better graphics and possibly tweaked storylines or whatever. I'm with it. Let's do it. I'm okay with nostalgia. I'm okay with this engine running. I'm okay with them remaking Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm totally okay with that because all those remakes are fire. You can sit here and you can nitpick about 3 wasn't the best one. I don't care. All of them were great. The 1 remake was great when you had to burn the zombies, or else they would rise back up. That was fire. I love that idea. Literally, it was fire. Get it? All right. I love that idea. 2 is my favorite Resident Evil of all time, and they did that game. Mwah, justice. Fucking justice. That game's a masterpiece. The remake, the original and the remake, both masterpieces. 3 was fucking great, even though I heard some people whine and complain about certain things and whatever. I loved it. And 4, believe it or not, I never really got into it. And it's crazy because that's probably the most essential Resident Evil. It's probably the most key Resident Evil out of the entire series because that's the direction from 4 on down. That's the direction that the template that created the template, and every Resident Evil after that has followed it. So it's a good game. I remember liking it, but it wasn't as impactful to me as 2 was, 1 was. 3 I played also, and I guess from 3 on 4 it started again. And 5, I loved 5. Was it a Resident Evil game? No. Was it a great action game? Yes. So that's the way I explained to people, because a lot of people were like, I didn't like 5. 5 was crazy. It was too action oriented. It's like playing a fucking action movie. It was like a thriller. It was like it didn't feel like a Resident Evil. And they're right. They're right. It does not feel like a Resident Evil, but it sure as hell is fun as fuck when you're playing with your friend and you guys are running around shooting zombies on co-op. That never got old. Me and my cousin replayed that game God knows how many times, till like 5 in the morning sometimes. I'm okay with them remaking games. I'm cool with the nostalgia, and I hope that I'm wrong when I say that retro gaming is something that's clinging on to dear life instead of thriving. Maybe I'm wrong, but just the other day, I'm playing Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Tears of the Kingdom. I always want to throw in Fallen in there. Tears of the Fallen Kingdom. I don't know. For some reason, that sounds cooler to me, but I think it's Tears of the Kingdom. And my friend was over, and me and her she was like helping me solve puzzles and shit on Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And I remember telling her like, "Hey, I have the original," and she was like, "What?" And I went and I grabbed the original gold cartridge for the Nintendo Entertainment System. I don't know why I said it like that. The Nintendo Entertainment System. Now you're playing with power. I grabbed the old cassette that's all beat to death, and I showed her, and I was like, "This is like where it started." And she was like, "Wow," which is, you show a girl your Nintendo tape, that's usually like a death sentence. She's not coming back, bro. But in this case, she was genuinely wild. She was like, "Wow!" Like it was like a fucking like something you see at a museum, like that type of wow. And it was cool, not only to see her reaction, but also to just hold the tape in my hand and go like, "Wow, we went from this to that to," and I pointed at like Tears of the Kingdom, and god damn it, you can say anything you want about Nintendo. Anything you want about Nintendo, man, but like they take care of their franchises. At least for the most part, Right now off the top of the head, I can't think of a franchise they butchered, and I know there's probably like the only three people that listen to this. They're probably like, yeah, I could think of fucking seven of them, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. But like, maybe I should have been more specific and say that Nintendo takes care of their main franchises, their Mario's, their Zeldas, their Kirby's, their Donkey Kongs, and all that. Because that's what I see. All these games are fucking. They have this formula when it comes to video games. Like they really focus on fun, and they fucking nail it, man. They do it. They fucking nail it. The Zeldas, the Donkey Kongs, all that shit that I just named. They're like classic games. They're games that you can play. Like you can play Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom 15 years from now, and I guarantee you will enjoy it. That's what you call a classic, you know? And this reminds me of another story that I'm going to go on a tangent on, then forget my original point, because that's what I'm good at. I was in my friend's car the other day, and that fucking Miley Cyrus song comes on. You know what I'm talking about, The Flowers. I can buy myself flowers. That's a cool song. But like when you hear it 70 times on the radio, you want to kill someone and then bring flowers to their funeral. But anyways, it drives me nuts. And I'm thinking of these songs, and I'm like, it's crazy. I told her, I said, isn't it crazy how these songs are so popular right now, but 5 years from now, no one's going to be playing this shit. 5 years from now, no one's going to be playing Miley Cyrus Flowers. And that sounds like some hater shit. I'm sorry if that's the way it sounded. Like, oh, it did sound pretty mean. I don't mean it that way. I'm just saying that Flowers is not a classic. Like, when you hear Pink Floyd shit, even the Beatles, I'm not a Beatles fan, but like when you hear Beatles songs or, even disco shit, you hear Bee Gees shit or something like that, you go, uh, you know, Bon Jovi, Iron Maiden, you know what I mean? Like fucking KRS-One. You hear these certain tracks and you're like, yo, this song came out 20 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. And guess what? 20 years from now, 30 years from now, they're still going to be as good. And they're still going to be highly relevant and used in media, used in movies, sampled and remade by different artists because they're classics. That they made a classic. And unfortunately, with Miley Cyrus in this song, even though it's a good song, it's not something that's going to last the test of time. There's so many artists. I remember, what's her name? Selena Gomez had the "I Love You Like a Heartbeat, Baby." Or that was big at the time. I think that's the way the song goes. I'm not even sure. It was catchy. But I'm like, who's listening to that now? I remember that shit was on the radio all the fucking time. It was on social media. I couldn't like pass scroll my YouTube without seeing something about it or a cover about it. And where is it now? This song didn't come out that long ago, a couple years ago. And that's just a testament. And then before that, it was countless other artists. You know, what was that guy that you didn't have to something 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 something. You know what I'm talking about. Don't act like you don't know. Even though I said something 70 times. That guy, do you think that song's going to be popular 5 years from? You get my point, man. It just sounds like I'm being a hater. I'm sorry. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just being realistic, and it's cool to know, right? Like, how good is something? A game, a movie, a track, a musical track, a performance, whether it's from boxing or MMA or soccer or football. How good is something that as you're watching it, you're going, oh shit, this is going to be good forever? Like, as it's happening, right? There's many times this happened throughout my life, but I'll give you two examples. One, I like MMA. One was when Conor McGregor fought Khabib, and Khabib ended up beating him by submitting him. When that was happening, I got up and I made this fucking guttural scream. It was like, "Ah!" I can't even recreate it. And I remember that just came, I couldn't hold it. And I'm normally a pretty well reserved guy, but I just got up and I let it go. And while this was happening, I was like, this is amazing. This is going to be talked about for years. And I was right. It's still brought up every now and then. Not every now and then, sorry. It's brought up quite frequently, at least in my circles, because I like combat sports, so it pops up a lot. I'll give you a better one that mostly everyone who's listening to this can relate. It's a video game, and that's Breath of the Wild, and that's also Tears of the Kingdom. I got the same goddamn feeling while I'm playing these games. I'm not trying to sell you nothing. I know it sounds like I'm hyping it up, but I'm being completely honest. As I'm playing Tears of the Kingdom and as I was playing Breath of the Wild, I remember thinking like, this game is so good. This game is going to be good forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not going to be hot for a couple of seconds, be played on the radio constantly, and then vanish because it was a bubblegum hit. Because it was just something that was tasty at the moment. No, this is a long-lasting, delicious steak, feeling nutrient dense food. Not the greatest. I can pick better examples. I need a drink. Give me a second. Not the greatest food example, but what I am saying is that it's cool to know at the moment while it's happening that this is a classic. This will stand the test of time. And to think that playing a cartridge made out of plastic that you blow into and stick into a video game console that's fucking a big box, at least here in the States. The Nintendo, we had the gray box that you open up the little flap and you blow on your cartridge and stick it in there. You know how it works. This is a video game channel after all. To think that we went from that to these little beep bop pixelated graphics and music to what we see on now. As soon as I'm done this, I'm going to play Tears of the Kingdom for sure. That's 100% for sure. I don't give a fuck if it's sunny outside. I should sit outside, man, get some sun. God damn it. Whatever. Point is, to go from that, from blowing a cassette to not only downloading it digitally, but also just seeing how great the Zelda franchise evolved, and how influential it has been to other genres, and other video game companies have created great games, fascinating games using the template that Zelda did. It's still something that's followed today. So I mean, I can go back and forth about how maybe this should have been about Zelda instead of just retro games in general, but everyone knows how great it is and how influential the Legend of Zelda is. But to get back to the original point, it's just like they're Zelda started off as retro gaming, even though retro gaming was not called retro gaming back then. It was just called gaming. But if you look at it, like, there's lots of games that are retro inspired. Some are made, like, just recently, yesterday I was watching a review on Boat Gun. I think Warhammer's Boat Gun or something like that. think that's the name of the game, and it's like this Doom inspired. It looks cool, man. It looks really cool, and I'm like, oh, obviously they totally were inspired by Doom. Like it's got the pixelated graphics. It's got the really quick first person shooter action. It's gory. It's really cool, and it's cool. Like I said, it's good to see that video games are still sorry, retro video games are still around today. I hope they're not clinging on, and I hope that they're thriving well because I want to see that. You know, I would like to know if there is a video game out there that's as massive in scope as a AAA game but pixelated. But of course, a good game also. I don't want a game devoid of fun that's huge but also pixelated. Like I was looking at Death Trash. There's this game that came out for PC, and I've been following it for quite a while. It's in early access, and it's on Steam, and it's called Death Trash. And I think this is that game. It's still not fully done, obviously, as it's still baking in early access, but it reminds me of a game that not only is it retro, but it's also huge in scope with like a sophisticated combat system that's, you know, requires accuracy, and it's twitchy and requires responsiveness. I like that, but just all in retro form. I'm still letting it bake. I haven't bought it. I played the demo and liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked what I was seeing and I liked what I was playing, but I still want to let it bake. I want this to really. I got to check on it recently. I haven't checked on it in a few weeks or whatever. I want to see if it's probably out of early access right now as we speak. I'm not even sure. I want to continue to see retro gaming in the future, and I hope that it's not something that's going to be left in the dust completely. you know, and I like, I really love it when the younger generation of kids do their history because I've always been a history guy. I like to know how things got to how they got today, and I want to see the first prototype of things that I'm using today in the modern era. I love that shit. I always loved history. Is it nerdy? Absolutely. Is everyone going to be into it? No. Did people fall asleep? Some people just believe that the past is the past and they don't want to focus on that shit. We want to focus on the future, and they're not wrong. Actually, in order for us to keep like a healthy mindset, we probably should take that approach, right? Just be like, yo, it fucking happened already. Let's move on. Like, that's probably the best way to mentally cope with life, to just fuck the past and just focus on the future. So they're not wrong, people who say this, but it is interesting to know where shit came from. Even speech, words, uh things, objects, places. Like, how did it look before? Like kings. What did the first king do? What did the first king wear? And presidents and whatever. I'm going off topic. That's what I do best. But I like when younger people try their best to play games that came out before their era, because that's what I do, and I have a hard time doing that shit. Like, I tried to play The Elder Scrolls Daggerfall. This was before my time. Like, mind you, I didn't have a gaming. My first gaming PC was 2016. That's I bought one from my brother. And that's how early I got into PC gaming. And even then I wasn't consistent with it. I didn't get consistent with PC gaming till like later on, like 2018 or something like that. 2019, that's when I really started ramping it up and using the PC a lot more. But from 2016 to like 2017, 18, I was kind of just tiptoeing, putting, sticking my big toe in the pond just to test out the waters. Now I'm fully submerged. I'm 100% into PC. I don't have any more consoles or anything besides the Nintendo, the old Nintendo from 1985. But I do have a Nintendo Switch and a PC. That's the only two things that I have. And I almost sold my Nintendo Switch, man, recently. I was gonna sell it to one of my coworkers, very dirt cheap. I'm glad I didn't because I'm enjoying the shit out of Zelda. Where was I going with this? I'll never remember. Well, anyways, retro gaming. It's fun. I'm just impressed. That's all. I really am geeking out over the fact that it's just like you can go on Steam right now, or Humble Bundle also specializes in this. It's like you can always find these cool little retro games. Like, there's always new ones that are coming out. Maybe I'm answering my own question as I'm speaking to you. Like, as I'm saying this, I'm answering my own question in live time, which is like, maybe this feeling that I have that retro gaming is just clinging on to dear life, maybe is a false feeling. Maybe it is thriving. The more I think about it, the more, I'm like, oh shit, wait a minute. There's a lot of these games and they're great for indie or startup companies, right? Like startup little developers slash publishers or whatever. They're pretty, I wouldn't say they're easier to make than, a full fledged AAA game, obviously. A lot of them doesn't require, like, there's so many great fucking classic titles out there that one person has created. Look at the guy who created Undertale, Toby Keith. Is that his name? That's probably a country singer that I just named. I don't know. Toby something, I believe. But anyways, he created, from what I'm told, at least. I don't know if he had any help or whatever, but I think he created Undertale completely by himself, and that's as retro as it fucking comes. You know, Obviously the music is, and the music is dope. It's like slash pixelated slash, I don't know what's going on there, but I love it. And it was a fantastic game. So it would make sense that a startup company or whatever, an indie company, would start with something retro and just put a lot of love in it. A lot of add some modern graphics to it. Like, look at games like Salt and Sanctuary. Those games, they're not necessarily pixelated or not necessarily retro, more like 2D-ish. But when I play them, I get this vibe of an era that's bygone, right? Like, everything's 3D now. All the modern big AAA games are 3D. Like, that's been the norm for quite some time now. And to still see 2D games kind of not lagging behind, but kind of just, in the mix, it's cool. And Salt and Sanctuary took a very simplistic art style and added these modern Dark Souls like mechanics to it, which is fucking awesome. It's like adapting, it's evolving, and then it's good to see that. And I wish that AAA developers would do something like this. Like, what's stopping Capcom or you know Ubisoft or Blizzard or somebody from making a retro game that's full on balls to the wall AAA quality? You know what I mean? Like, no half ass and just straight up giant world, straight up cool side quests, great boss battle, great mechanics, freedom of exploration, create a character, everything, dude. Everything. Balls to the wall. Like, that'll be so cool. You can make like a create your own pixelated little character. I understand some games have this. Everything that I just named, some pixelated games do have. Just recently, I was playing Core Keeper, pretty cool little survival game, survival crafting game, and you can create your character, your little pixelated character. Starbound, it's another beautiful. Oh shit, Starbound. Starbound is a game I can say that is massive in scope, and you can craft and you can spend hundreds of hours playing Terraria, Minecraft, even. Wow, you see, I'm answering my own questions, and yeah, Starbound. Starbound's probably as close. I think Starbound hits just about almost every note that I'm craving for in that big AAA esque retro game that I'm speaking about. Starbound hits a lot of notes. I never finished it or anything like that, but I remember thoroughly enjoying it and also being surprised at how fucking huge the world is. Well, I guess there are games out there that are, I guess, satisfying my needs. That sounds weird. You know what I mean? I'm here for it, man. I said it again. And I want to see it thrive. I want it to always be a thing. You know what I mean? You're old when, like, one of your coworkers, he's in his early 20s and he's like, "Oh man, this game's so old." And he was talking about I think it was like, what was it? I think it was something from, I might have been Metal Gear Solid for PlayStation, the first PlayStation. And when it was all like not pixelated, but like polygonal, polygonal. I can't say the word. I'm gonna say polygonal. That sounds whatever. It's all polygons. And he's like, "This is so old," and I'm like, "You're right. It is old, but like that's as old as video games were to him. Like, I played Atari. I remember one of the first video games I ever played in my life that was like at least memorable to me was Super Pitfall." And I'm like, that's old to me. That's like ancient to me. To him, it's the first Metal Gear. Metal Gear. Well, not. Is it the first Metal Gear? No, it's not the first Metal Gear. First Metal Gear would be the NES one, which I have a copy of. Then the second one would be for it wasn't Super Nintendo, was it? And then the third one was for PlayStation. Whatever. So the PlayStation version of Metal Gear, the first one, Metal Gear Solid, that one is as old as video games got to him, and that blew my mind. I'm like, wow, dude, like, you know, obviously that's gonna happen because I'm much older than him. That's nothing none of us can control, but it's that's his version of retro. So when he thinks of retro games, that's what he thinks of. And I'm like, no, no. When I think of retro games, I think of Atari. So we have different definitions or whatever. But I do hope that, like I was saying earlier, something about like the younger guys learning history. Like it's cool to know. It's cool to know that like people who love, like someone who's never played any Zelda before and they start off with Tears of the Kingdom, it's good to know if they will go like, you know what, I love this game so much. I did some research on it, and I realized that this game has been around since like the 80s. And it's cool to watch. I'm sure you can watch hundreds of videos on YouTube on the evolution of Zelda. And how cool would that be just to watch a video like that? Just a minute, a quick minute explanation on each and every single Zelda game, like a Zelda chronological. Fuck me. Zelda games in chronological order. There you go. It'll be cool to, each game gets a minute of explanation or whatever. That sounds like, I know there's hundreds of videos out there like that, and that's great. Maybe I should watch one, but because I'm sure there'll be some Zelda games there that I'm like, I don't even know this shit existed. It's good to know that, or it's cool to know when someone knows their shit. It's not just somebody who's played the most recent games. And it sucks that I would say most people that I meet, when they talk about a video game franchise and they kind of try to tell me something, like, I'll give you a quick example. It has nothing to do with video games, but one of my younger coworkers the other day was trying to tell me about not tell me, he was trying to school me about the Bermuda Triangle. He was like, yo, man, the Bermuda Triangle, man, it's crazy. I'm like, bro, you just learned about the Bermuda Triangle. And he did. He just learned about the Bermuda Triangle from a TikTok video that he saw in 2023. I'm like, bro, I knew about the Bermuda Triangle since like the 90s. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is not a new thing, but it is cool though. I try not to get upset because, like I said, he wasn't telling me. He wasn't sharing fact. He was like trying to school me, like, "Yo, this is," and I'm like, hold on, dude. You're talking to an old man here. Like, I know about the Bermuda Triangle. Anyways, of course, I didn't take it hard on him, but it thrilled me. I felt like a accomplished teacher or something. Like, it thrilled me that young guys are interested in, first of all, interested about history, but also surprised at the same time that videos like this that have anything to do with history are on TikTok, and it's all not like mindless dancing and girl popping her titty out or something, or some weird pranks, or hey guys, you know famous YouTube catchphrase there. It's good to know when people know their shit. That's all. Even if it's not like you don't have to do a gigantic deep dive in history, but it's just good to know you know your shit. Here's to retro gaming, man. I'll say it again. I'm here for it, and I want to continue playing, and I hope that people keep investing, and and it's happening. I don't know why I'm saying I hope it's fucking There's still retro inspired video games out there. Now I just spoke about one not so long ago, most recent one that I saw a review of yesterday. It's happening, and I hope it continues happening. That's all I can say. And hopefully, I will find that one game that hits all of the marks that's also retro inspired. That'd be really cool. I can't wait to see that or play it. See you guys around.